Hi guys, let's welcome you all in our next video of this particular series 3. Let's start first with the setting of the model. So how will it progress is like that. First we will do the setup of the model, then we will set up a sample sheet, then we will prepare a input sheet, and then we will move on with our calculations like capex calculations, working capital calculations, debt calculations, financial statement calculations, and our output calculations, right? So guys, before starting this, you can see I picked up a blank excel file, and then let's probably start. So guys, first of all, I'm going to remove the borders, right? So how you can remove the borders? The shortcut to remove the borders is all WVZ, right? So first of all, we are going to remove the borders. Then what next we are going to do is like just make this A column little bit short, B column little bit short, C, D, E, right? So this is just the formatting. So formatting depends on person to person. ऐसा हो सकता है आपको कुछ अच्छा लगता हो, किसी और को कोई अच्छा लगता हो, right? So the formatting depends on person to person. There is nothing to worry about it. But how I do formatting is that I always shorten the columns A, B, and C, right? And I always try to put my, I would say, row labels in column number F, right? Then we are going to leave our first row blank, right? Then second row also we are going to leave blank, and third there will be a seat name here, right? So here you can see seat name. Let's make this bold. Let's make this bold, and let's increase the size of it. Okay. So after seat name, then we are going to leave some more rows blank, and then let's come to row number 8, right? Now in row number 8, what all we are going to have? So first of all, we are going to have like the values, like in which I would say in which currency our values is there, right? Then we will have in column number F our particulars. Now after particulars, then we are going to have our in column D, we are going to have our units, right? Now after units, then we are going to have opposite reference. Opposite reference means, let us suppose if you are referring something from this seat to another seat, so that is known as opposite reference. Then we are going to have our row total, and at last we are going to have our constant, or you can say values, right? So this is the way in which we are going to like build our seat, right? So now how to move ahead? So next thing we are going to do is that we are going to freeze it, right? And how we are going to freeze it? So we are going to press all WFF, right? So you can see now this is now freezed, right? And then just to make our model, I would say little bit uh, I would say like just to make your model little bit clean and little bit attractive, what we are going to do is that we are going to put a thick bottom border here, right? So you can see I put in a thick bottom border here, right? So let's not put it here. Instead, let's put it here. So so this is my, where it is, thick bottom border, right? So now this looks a little bit clean. Then what's next do we have? So here we are going to say, here will be my FY label. By FY label, so don't worry guys, I will just explain these FY label in short time, right? So we will calc calculate this, what level should be here, what level should not be here, right? But the format will look like this. So I'm just preparing a format for you guys, so that we are going to use the same sample sheet, right? Then we are going to have period label, right? Then we are going to have period from, like what is the starting period. Then we are going to have what is the ending date of the period. So you can say period from till period 2, right? And then we are going to have days in a period, or you can say days in this particular period. Now after that we are going to have our period number, right? So these all are the settings that we are going to have. Now after this, what's next we are going to have? So like, in order to make it again a more cleaner or more better, I would say then again put a freezing here, right? So now you can see, like, I put it on a freezing here, right? So that whenever I scroll it to the bottom, I can see my labels, right? So this is the way to do it, right? Now let's do one thing. Let's sort in some of our rows, right? So these rows are like looking big. So let's try to minimize the width little bit if it is possible. Okay, right guys, so this is the format, this format we are going to follow for our heading of the seats, right? Now what's next? Next we are going to have the settings, right? So this sheet will talk about settings. Now in settings we are going to set up our model, right? So first thing that come to my mind, right? So the first thing that come to my mind is the setting up of the model information, right? So the first thing that comes to my mind is setting up of my model information. So I can say model information. Okay guys, and always put a same like text whatever you are using in C column. So in C column I'm going to use a text size of 14, I would say, right? Or 40, sorry, 16 is very long. Let's use 14. Yeah, 14 calibri let's use, right? So this is going to be our model information. Now, just to make our model little bit presentable, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to select the color, our Finch's color code. So I'm going to select the color as blue, right? So that it becomes little bit informative, right? Now, after this model information, first of all, let's start. So let's start with the model name. Right? What is our model name? So model name, the units for model name is going to be in text. So let's write it as text, right? And let's make this whole column centrally aligned and make this italics, right? So let's rename these as text. Now model name. So what is my model name, guys? So model name is nothing but I can assume that, let's say this model as project finance model, right? So let's say this model as project finance model, right? Now I want to use this project finance model name in my seats, right? So now what do I need to do? So what I will do is that I will set up a name for this particular cell. So how can I set up a name for this particular cell? I can go to formulas, I can go to name manager, I can click on new, right? And I can say this as this is my model name, right? Now what will happen? I will show you the magic. So what will happen is that whenever you say equals to model name, right? So you can see it will automatically get uh, linked to this particular cell. So this is the benefit of naming the row. So whenever we build a financial model, and if that financial model is very big, then we always give the name of the cells which we know are going to be used frequently, and those are universal truths, right? Then after model name, what next do we have? Then next we can say model status, or let's not keep in model status, so leave it. Then we have a currency, right? So currency, what is the currency that we are going to use? Right. So currency again, guys, I told you guys, like the model currency is going to be in INR thousands, right? So while discussing the case study, I already made this clear to you guys that my currency is going to be in INR thousands, right? Now I can again rename this cell. So how can I rename this cell? I can go to this name manager. I can say model currency, right? I can say model currency. Now you can see this cell has been named as model currency now, right? Now currency I set up. Now I want to give a units title, right? So if you guys remember, here we want to have units title, right? Now how to give a units title? So in order to give in units title, we are going to use a formula here, right? So first of all, let's write units title, right? And this is also going to be in text. So I can say units title can be equals to, right, double double colon, then values in, right? And then I can say values in space, then I can say this, and then I can put an ampersand, and I can say uh, and model currency, right? And model currency, and then we can again put an ampersand. I can say this unless otherwise stated, right? So what does this mean, guys? So this means that I am just saying to the user of the model that the units of the model is in INRK unless stated otherwise. So let us suppose if the units is other than rupees thousands, then we are going to state it as rupees or something like this, right? But if there is no units mentioned, then you can assume that the units are in INR thousands, right? Now what I will do is that I will simply link this, right? So I will simply link this with model, sorry, I can simply link this with value in INRK unless otherwise stated, right? Or you can rename this cell again. You can say this as units title, right? Now you can see values in INRK unless otherwise stated. So this is going to be my units title, guys. Now after model information, then we are going to have our model timeline information. So let's copy this again, right? Let's copy this again, let's paste it here, and let's say model timeline information. So guys, how I am going to do this is that in column B, it will be my heading number one. Column C will be for heading number two. Column D will be for heading number three. Column E will be for heading number four, and column F will be for row labels. Right. So guys, next we have a model timeline information. So the most important thing, that is that model start date. So when is my model starting, right? And the units for this is always going to be in dates. So model start date, I can say, as per my case study, my model start date is nothing but my 1st January 2023, right? So guys, let's do a formatting of this date format, and let's use the standard format, right? And I can choose the standard format to be 1 minute, guys. Let's choose this format, right? So 1st January 2023, right? Then how much model life, right? Or you can say model life in years, right? So model life in years. So guys, if you remember, so this is going to be number. So if you remember the case study, guys, or if I show you the case study again, you can see like my startup business was from 1st January 2023, and I want to build the financial model for 10 years, right? So my model life is nothing but my 10 years, right? So then we have a, I would say, model life is for 10 years, guys. Then next we have model end date, right? So when will my model end, right? So my model will end nothing but I can use a formula here. So I can say e date, right? Or you can use here eo month. Eo month start date will be this, and this is my years, so I can multiply it with 12 in order to arrive at the number of months, right? And then I can say my model is going to get completed on 31st in 2023, right? Is this correct, guys? Is this correct? No, this is not correct, right? Right? Because दिस इज द डिफरेंस आई वांटेड टू शो टू यू गाइस. यहाँ पे होता क्या है ना, 1 जनवरी 2023 से आप स्टार्ट कर रहे हैं तो आपका 10 ईयर्स 31st दिसंबर 32 को ही कंप्लीट हो जाएगा, राइट? बट ये ईओ मंथ क्या करता है, ईओ मंथ ऑलवेज गिव्स यू द लास्ट डेट ऑफ द मंथ, राइट? सो इसने यहाँ पे इसलिए प्रॉब्लम कर दिया है, राइट? सो नाउ हाउ टू हैंडल दिस, सो आई कैन से 12 - 1, राइट? सो नाउ यू कैन सी दिस, राइट? सो दिस इज द करेक्ट टाइमलाइन गाइस. अगर आप 1 जनवरी 2023 को कुछ स्टार्ट कर रहे हैं तो आफ्टर 10 ईयर्स इट विल एंड ऑन 31st December 2032, right? So this is my model timeline information, guys. And model end date, we said it. Now there are some miscellaneous assumptions across the model, right? So you can say miscellaneous, right? So next we have a miscellaneous informations. So miscellaneous informations are related to the units, right? So miscellaneous information related to units. Now first miscellaneous information is regarding text, right? So like how we are going to say, so how we are going to define units so that the user of the model should understand, like, okay, so if I see something in this unit, then this means that this is related to this, right? So I can say if something is in text, right? So if something is in text, right, then the unit for it is going to be in text, right? Then I can say if something is in date, then units for it is going to be in date, right? Okay. Then for number, if there is some number assumptions, we are going to represent it through hash, right? Now true or false. So true or false, I can say 0-1 is a unit. So if something is true, it is 0, and if something is false, it is 1. Right, guys? Then percentage. If something is written as percentage, then we are going to denote it through percentage, right? And then for not applicable things, we are going to say this as n dash a, right? Okay, so these are the assumptions regarding, I would say, the units, right? Now if you want, you can always set the names for this. So for example, let us suppose if I say text, so I can say that I can say this as units underscore text, right? Or if I can move on to next, then I can say units underscore date, right? So so that you can see, like, now it's very easy, right? So let us suppose if I'm working in any seat and I want to write the units as date, right? Then what I can do, then I can simply say units underscore date, right? Then it will automatically give write it as date, right? So in this way you can do this. This is just a way to show to you guys, right? Then next, after units, we are going to have our numbers, right? So what are the numbers assumptions that we are going to use in the model, right? So guys, first of all, there is a tolerance check. Right now, what do we mean by tolerance check, guys? So tolerance check is that, let us suppose, if you guys had experienced it, whenever you build a debt schedule, right, then you can see at the end of the period, like when your debt is being repaid off, there are some rounding issues, right? So it gives you a number of 0.001, which is very negligible, right? So whenever you are building a check in the model, then due to that number, your model will always give you a, like, false, right? Or it will give you an error. So just to avoid those error, we say in the model that these are my tolerance level. So if there is some number which is 0.001, you can ignore it, right? So this is the meaning of tolerance check, guys, and it's very important in the model, right? So then we can say this is going to be in hash, and my tolerance level is going to, so we assume it as a very small number, right? So I can say tolerance check is in this number, right? Then a round. So how much rounding figures we can apply 4, right? Then thousand converter, so I can say converter thousand, because these converters we require, right? So I can say 1000. Then I can say converter million. So how much million converter? So again, I can say this to be equals to 10 raised to the power 6, right? So right, guys, and now I can probably give them a name. So for example, for tolerance check, I can give them a name as tolerance, right? Because you understand that we are going to use these very often in our model, right? So instead of coming back again and again in our model, what we can do is that we can simply say equals to tolerance, and then we can simply link it from here, right? Then for this, I want to give it as a name of thousand, right? Then for next, I want to give it as a name of million, right? Okay. Then we have a, guys, month converter, year converter. Then I can say converter year, converter month, right? Then I can say converter hour, right? Or you can say then converter semester, right? And then you can say converter quarter, right? So guys, why we are defining so much of variables in our model? Because, like, as per the financing modeling guidelines, right, your model should not contain any hard coded constants in the formula, right? So for example, let us suppose if some values are in months and you want to convert it into year, right? So you need to multiply that number by 12, right? So what you will do in formula, you will say equal to this cell multiplied by 12. Now you are writing 12 as a hard coded number, right? So as a financial modeling guidelines which is followed all across the world, you should not use any hard coded numbers inside your formula, right? So just to avoid those, we are defining so much of variables in our model, right? So guys, converter year, then we can say if I want to convert something in a year, right? Then how much, like converter year, so let us suppose, like there is a number, right, and I want to convert it in a year. There are some dates, so we need to divide it by 365, right? So I can say 365 here. Converter month, I can say 12. Converter hour, 24 hours. Converter semester, right, I can say 6, right, and quarter, right, 3, right, and I can name these now. So for example, for converter year 365, I can name these as year, right? For converter month, right, I can say this as month month, right? For converter hour, I can say this as hour, right? For converter semester, I can say this as semester, right? Or you can say half yearly, anything, guys. And for quarter, I can say this as quarter, right? So guys, this is the setting that we did in our model, right? Now there are some lists which we are going to use in our model, right? So what are the list, guys, which we are going to use in our model? So I can say lists, right? So lists, by lists I mean period labels, right? So period labels. So for period we are going to use some labels, right? Now what are my labels, guys? So my labels are first going to be, I can say, my first label and second label. So here I'm going to use two labels, guys. The first label is going to be my construction, right? Construction, and second label is going to be my operations, right? Or you can say ops, operations, right? And how I am going to denote it as, for construction I am saying it as cons, and for operations I am saying it as ops, right? So these are my lists, guys. Then, so we are done with the basic setting of our model. Then, guys, as a financial modeling guidelines, we need to highlight the cells which are hard coded so that the user of the model understands that these are the cells which are hard coded and you can play with these cells and your model will be updated, right? So we are going to use this, and now we are supposed to build our, I would say, the timelines ranges, right? So let's start building it. So before moving ahead with it, I would like to teach you something about cell styles. So cell styles is that function in Excel where you are not supposed to do the formatting again and again. So for an example, let us suppose if I want to write anything in column C, I always want to give it as a format for bold, Calibri 14, and color as blue, right? So instead of doing this again and again manually, I can set it up using cell styles, right? Now, how can I set up a cell style? So in order to set up a cell style, what we need to do is that in your home ribbon, there is an option of cell styles, right? Go to cell styles, then there is an option of new cell style, right? Create a new cell style, name this as, let us suppose, heading number 1, right? Then I want to give it a format, right? So the format for this is going to be, there should be no outline first of all, right? The pattern color, right? So there is no pattern color here, right? The font should be in Calibri bold, and the size should be 14, right? And the color should be this, right? And what is the alignment? There is no alignment as such, right? And then I can set a font, right? Now you can see what will happen here. So I can say this as, so these names already exist, so I can say heading uh, C column, let us suppose. Can say heading C column for an example, right? Now let us suppose I write anything in column number C. Let us suppose I write India, right? And I want to give it the format for C, column C format, which I am doing. So I can, what I can do, I can go to cell styles, I can click on this, and now you can see it gets automatically formatted, right? So I'm not supposed to do again and again, like I need to go to Calibri, I need to select the font size to 14, then this and this and this, right? So guys, in this way we can really set up, right? And this is a good way to do this, right? So for an example again guys, next cell style that we are going to define is related to, I would say, the input cell. So how I can do a cell design to input cell? So I can say input cells, right? Now I can click on format, right? Now what I can do? So I can say that it should be in Calibri Buddy 11, right? And the color of the input, let's keep it in black, right? Now the borders, right? So I want it to be a outline border, right? And then the fill style should be automatic. Sorry, it should be in yellow actually. So let us suppose, let's select a color of yellow. So let's suppose this color, right? And then click on OK, then click on OK, right? Now what will happen? So let us suppose I am writing 5 as an input, right? So I can go to cell style, right? And I can say input cells, but again you can see right now color is not applied, right? So I can click on modify, then in fill I need to give it a color, right? So background color actually. So I can set this up. Now I can click on OK. Now let's write it as 5 here. So what will happen? You can see now. So I will click on input cells and this will be formatted as an input, right? So guys, in this way you can do, I would say, the cell styles. Next cell style that I am going to do is again related to my modulus input cell. So modulus input, right? So modulus input is something, let us suppose if I want to give it an input, right? And it's related to the modulus, right? So I can say this as this color, right? Then border I can give as outline border, and then font this and this and this, right? So now you can see this is selected. So for example, if I say 5, and now if I click on modulus input, you can see this is now modulus input, right? Next format that we are going to give it as, let us suppose guys, I'm let us suppose writing here as 5, right? And I want that this number should be 5% greater than the previous number, right? So what I will do, I will say equals to 5 equals to my previous period multiplied by 1 plus the percentage, right? Now what happened? So now what happens is that I use this previous cell, right? And I don't want anyone to change any value in this cell. So for example, let us say if anyone will write 6, then this value will automatically be updated, right? So I don't want anyone to tamper with this cell because this cell I had used in calculations, right? So now just to give these cells a unique color, right? I am going to define a cell style for it. So how can I define a cell style? I can create a new cell style, right? And write it as we can give it as a name of like previous period, right? Previous period reference, any name, whichever you want, right? And then for border, I want it to be all borders, right? Font is fine. And then for fill, I am giving it as a pattern, right? So now you can see this. Okay. So for example, now what will happen if I say this as previous period? You can see now this is formatted, right? Now guys, one more input I would like to give here is the opposite references. So let us suppose if I am referring some cells from the other sheet, right? Then I'm willing to give it a unique color, right? So how can I give my opposite reference, guys? So I can say pattern style to be blank, right? and color. So I can select a color. Let us suppose I am selecting a color. uh, which color should I select? So let us suppose I selected a color. This is more or less equal to modulus input. So let's define it a little bit. This color. Okay. Then font this. Okay. Okay. So if I click on cell style and offset references, you can see, right? So guys, these are some of the custom headings which I gave it to them, right? Now guys, for column C, I gave it a heading. Now for column D, I also want to give it a heading, right? Or a cell style. So for column D, I can again create a new cell style. I can say column D, right? I can click on format. I can increase the length little bit to 12, right? And let's give it a color in order to make it more, I would say, vibrant. Let's give it a color, deeper color, I would recommend, right? And then, okay, okay. So now let us suppose if I give it as a heading column D. So now you can see I gave it as a heading, right? So now I can do the same thing and it is done. So guys, in future, let us suppose if we require many more, then we will keep on adding it, right? But for the time being, to start with, this is fine, right? But guys, these are very important things, right? So you really can't miss these things because these are small things, but these things are required, right? So you always need to be a little bit careful about this, and you literally need to do the formatting in your professional life, right? And whenever you are applying for any interview, for formatting also there are some numbers allocated to it, right? So this is very important, guys. Now let's move on next to our annual timeline setup, right? So I can say annual timeline setup. I'm going to build this model in an annual basis, right? So now you can see I can click on column input set. I can give them this, right? Now in annual timeline setup, I require few things, right? So first of all, I required financial year label, then period label, right? Then period from, period to, then days in a period, and then period number. So I can copy these down, right? And I can paste them here, right? Now the units. So for labels, it is going to be in text, right? Now period from. So period level is also going to be in text. Period from is going to be in date. Period to also in date. Days in a period is going to be in number. Period number is going to be in number, right? So guys, now how to calculate this, right? So this remains a question, right? So how to calculate this? So guys, before calculating this, first of all, let's start with my period from, right? So for calculating period from, I can say it starts from model start date is 1st January 2023, right? Now I want to build a annual model, right? So I can say equals to e date this comma 12, right? And I need to give a -1 as well. So you can see now this is done. Now for the next period, I can say equals to this date, previous date plus 1, right? And then I can copy the same formula, right? And now I can copy these and I want to build a 10-year timeline. So you can see I selected the 10-year timeline, right? Now guys, days in a period. So how many days in a period? So I can say equals to period to date minus starting date plus 1, right? Because I literally want to consider that date as well, right? So I need to give it a plus 1, right? So you can see periods in a date is calculated. right? Then next what do we have? Next, we have a period number. So period number can be 1, 2, 3, 4, so on and so on, right? So now how to give them a period number? So in order to give them a period number, we are going to use if condition. So if condition says that if this cell is not equal to 0, right? If this cell is not equals to 0, right, then give me what? Then give me my previous period plus 1, otherwise give me my previous period, right? So this is basically, you can see now in this formula I use this cell, you can see I use J60 in my calculation, right? And I don't want anyone to change any value here, so I am going to give it a color, background of modulus, or you can say previous period reference, right? So this is the benefit of the cell style that we use there, right? Now guys, we are supposed to define fy label, right? So if this is fy23, fy24, so on and so on. So how can I do this? So I can say equals to fy, because fy is a text, right? And then I can concatenate it, and then I can say right. So right is a function of Excel, right? And then I can say year of my period to date, right? Till when my period is getting completed, right? Sorry, right? Then year of this date. So it will give me 23. Then I want only two characters. That's why I'm using right, right? And then you can see now it gave you FY23, so on and so on. Right? Now I can give them a this color. Now guys, for period label here it will come construction or operations, but since we don't define the construction and operations timeline till now in the model, we didn't set up the inputs for it, so that's why it will remain blank right now. But again, whenever we will set up our input sheet, then we will fill this, right? So don't worry about it. Currently it will left blank because I want to build the model dynamic. The timeline should also be in dynamic, so that's why currently I don't want to build it, right? Because once we have our model set up, like the inputs for construction and operations are there, then I will insert the label, whether this period is going to be construction, whether this period is going to be operation, so on and so on. So probably in next video we are going to do this, right? Now guys, some important things. So I told you guys, like, for the hard coded numbers we are going to like give them a color, right? And for the calculated cells we are going to give them a color, right? So guys, for project finance model finchase, right, this is again an input cell, so I can give them a color of input cell, right? So how you can do this quickly? So in order to do this quickly, what you can do is that you can select this, right? Then you can press F5 on your system, go to spatial, right? And then go to constants, right? And in constants I want my numbers and I want my text, right? And you can see now all these cells are now highlighted, right? Now since these cells are highlighted, I will go to cell styles and I will click on input cells, right? And then now you can see these all are changed, right? So guys, let's give them a date format. 1 minute. So go to date. Okay, so now you can see guys, these are done, right? And I don't want anyone to tamper with these, right? Because convert a million thousand, these are some universal numbers, right? So what I can do, first of all, give them a this, right? And then go to cell styles, give them a modulus input, right? Then probably, right? So these are my modulus input cells, please don't change them. I'm instructing the user of the model, right? And these are my calculated cells, you can play with it, You don't need to play with it, right? Now guys, for seat name, so for seat name we are going to use a formula here, right? And what formula we are going to use here? So the formula which we are going to use here is basically a combination of write, sell, and find function, right? So guys, this is going to be a little bit complex formula. I'm not explaining Excel here, right? Because I'm assuming that you guys know Excel, but if you really want to learn Excel, then please reach out to us. We will help you in reaching in learning the Excel as well, right? But again, just let us see how we can do this automatically, right? So how, what we can do, we can say equal to write, right? Now write is a text function, and I can say at the rate sell, right? And sell, and then I can say file name. You can see here it is file name, right? And then I can say, I can give a reference of cell number A1, right? Guys, don't worry about this formula. I'm just setting it up, right? But this formula is universal. You can use it anytime, right? I don't want to waste my time in explaining this formula, to be very honest. But in model, whatever formula I'm going to use, I will explain you in detail. So don't worry about it. And then I can say this. So I hope all my brackets are closed. And then I can say find what? Now you can see it automatically updated your seat, right? So let's give it a color code as well for heading also. Let's give it a color code, right? And let's give it a color code of, let us suppose I want, this is my seat name, so I literally want it to be a little bit big. So let's say them as setting this. And now for color, let's give them a vibrant color, I would say, right? So guys, you can choose any color whatever you want, so don't literally worry about it. But let's make it more, I'd say, good, right? So guys, this is your setting seat. Now everything is pretty much done, right? So now what we are going to do next, so since in this seat I did all the customizations, right? So what I will do, I will create a copy of this seat, right? And I can say move mover and create a copy, right? And now I can say this as my inputs, or you can say this as input seat, right? So now you can see it automatically get updated, right? Everything is fine. Now I don't want these steps, right? Because these things I don't want, right? And I don't want any cell styles as well. So it's all done, right? Now for this model name, so I can again link it to equal to my setting seat, right? And let's freeze it. And for the units, I can link it to this cell, and let's freeze it, right? So guys, this is done, right? And I hope you were able to understand it. Now in the next video, we are going to set up our input sheet, I would say, right? So guys, till then, probably let's take a pause and see you guys in next video.